Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I hope you're doing well, inshallah. So today I thought I'd just have a bit of a quick debrief on what happened last Sunday. As many of you know, I was at Speaker's Corner and there was a very significant event that took place in Speaker's Corner, which I believe hasn't taken place prior in history, in recent history, and that was a fascist salute was thrown in the middle of Speaker's Corner in a debate that I was actually engaged in. Now, fascism in its most prominent manifestation was in the 1940s, of course, in early 1940s Germany, with what occurred there, and what led up to that sort of party taking power was the events that were taking place in the Weimar Republic. So the Weimar Republic was a period of Germany, a republic, where a minority in Germany, the Jewish population, they held a fair degree of power. They were very influential for their size, like they were represented quite well in media, in law, in the various manufacturing industries that Germany has, and in terms of the aristocracy as well, especially in the Berlin area. And because of that, and because of the hyperinflation that occurred in the Weimar Republic, a lot of resentment built amongst the working class populace in Germany, and a lot of hatred was being whipped up by the Nazi Party against the Jewish population. And these are the kind of environments where National Socialism, Nazism, which is an abbreviation of National Socialism, really thrives. It's environments where you have minority groups which are really, dominating in areas typically in a much greater scale than they're expected to do so. And those are the kind of climates and environments where Nazism thrives. And that doesn't have to be economic domination like it was in the Weimar Republic, where the Jewish populations held a greater degree of financial wealth than the average German. It can also be in multiple different ways. And these are the environments where National Socialism rises. And same, as you can imagine, the same thing I'm going to come to is the same is happening in the UK. So, for example, the Muslim population, and one thing that's often referred to is that we have strong family ties, we have large families, we accumulate our wealth together, and that really helps, through struggle, like it helped the Jewish populations in the Weimar Republic. A time where there was hyperinflation, and a time now where everyone's struggling with inflation, everyone's struggling with the economic situation of the country. And it really made me reflect that in circumstances like this, the majority population, they should really, instead of denigrating and attacking and targeting and blaming the minority population that is doing well in that particular country or region, rather look towards learning from that population, learning and integrating the values that those minority populations have into the majority population, and vice versa, like if they feel that way. So yeah, it's just interesting to me that that's how things happen. In terms of the actual salute that occurred, people are saying it wasn't a Nazi salute. To me, it very clearly was, because it was referencing the actual Nazi salute by Calvin Robinson, where he was speaking at an anti-abortion rally, I believe, in the United States of America, and he threw an open-handed, just almost near perfect version of what they believe is a Nazi salute. So that was undeniable, especially after it was done in the circumstances, like a few weeks or a week after when Elon Musk threw some type of salute at his rally. in America. So, yeah, Calvin Robinson's was undisputably a Nazi salute. That is the reason why he was deplatformed from the Anglican Church. He wasn't just deplatformed from his Anglican Church for it, he was actually a prominent attendee or news presenter. He was prominently associated with GB News, which is a news network in the UK. And he was deplatformed from there as well, alongside his buddy Lawrence Fox, who was a presenter on GB News. So given all of this, given the clear, undeniable fact that that was a Nazi salute that was thrown by Calvin Robinson, my interlocutor threw a salute when I was raising that particular Nazi salute in the discussion, and when I was raising that you had been on Calvin Robinson's podcast after that salute was thrown. So if that's not a tacit acknowledgement, and if that is not a literal salute towards the Nazi salute, thereby being a salute, I don't know what is. And just, it was almost 100% typical Nazi salute. The only difference was there was a closed fist, and that is the reason many people are giving as a justification for it not being an actual Nazi salute. Now, about this, I have a few things to say. The first thing is, it was thrown with intent. If someone is at Nuremberg, for example, in the 1940s, and Adolf Hitler is leading one of his Nuremberg rallies, and everyone throws a salute, and just because they don't open their hands, that doesn't mean it's not a Nazi salute, because they're saluting their leader. And in the same way, just because the hand wasn't open, it doesn't mean it's not a Nazi salute. It was a salute to Calvin Robinson's actual Nazi salute, thereby automatically becoming a Nazi salute. It was also thrown as a dog whistle, because it was thrown with a smile. It was thrown multiple times with a smile, in the environment where Calvin Robinson is being discussed, and the individual throwing it was himself saying, whilst he was throwing it multiple times, was saying, you see this as a dog whistle, you see this as a dog whistle, therefore alluding to it being a dog whistle, and continuously throwing it without giving a clear alternative to it being a Nazi salute. Because if you're going to throw something like that in such a terrible climate, in such a terrible topic being discussed, you should, if you're going to throw it, you're just going to throw the same kind of salute that's being discussed. Otherwise, you have to acknowledge and you have to clarify what type of salute you're throwing. If it's and there was no clarification on what type of salute was being thrown, thereby it having to have been a Nazi salute. And the last point why it was a Nazi salute, and I've just slipped this in a bit later because I forgot to mention this earlier, was this was identical to the salute thrown by Anders Breivik, the horrible individual that committed the mass slaughter of people in Norway. So yeah, it was identical to that, with a closed fist. And actually, Anders Breivik, he mentioned that the reason he did that was because that particular form of the salute, the closed fist salute, was a salute that was done as part of a Templar organization that he belonged to. And the sources for this I'll link below. It's France 24. So I'm not saying the individual, my interlocutor, threw it because of that reason, but that just shows that it is a Nazi salute. Now, despite this happening, I categorically denounce any violence towards any individual based on whatever opinion they're representing, no matter how abhorrent it be. Everyone in Speaker's Corner has the right to voice their opinions, but yeah, it's very disappointing to see. It's very disappointing to see. I don't know how anyone can justify it. it's just a terrible state of events where he's not even being publicly denounced by his own side, by his people who were originally his followers, because he's got a massive following. And this should be categorically, like, if there's anything people should denounce, it's this. And for him to continue receiving support for his actions, it's dangerous. And what can you say in the state of things? I will say this though, he approached me off camera, and it's very different to the way other people approach. When typically in Speaker's Corner, I try and keep a very friendly, enjoyable atmosphere with whoever I'm talking to, and I'm sure a lot of people can attest to that, even on the other side, even on people on his side, I hope. But yeah, in this case, it's always just very aggressive, very confrontational, and yeah, he approached me off camera, and we had a discussion off camera where I told him how disappointed I was in his behavior, in what he has done, and I could see he was visibly hurt, because in his opinion it's all about winning the argument, and he very clearly didn't in this case situation. So I could see that, and I could sense that, and I wanted to provide him some, you know, I felt bad because the guy's homeless. The guy has no home. He's clearly in the wrong company. He's clearly in trouble with the authorities, so I tried to reach out to him as much as I could. And the way I did that was to try and soften his heart towards the people he hates, which is the Muslim community. So in terms of that, I tried to provide I tried to emphasize the importance of his parents, because at the end of the day, no one should be falling out with their parents. They should, in Islam, we have a hadith where a member of the Sahaba, he approaches the Prophet ﷺ and asks him, who has the most right over me? And the Prophet replies, your mother. And then he asks again, who has the most right? The Prophet replies, your mother. And then he asks again, who has the most right? And the Prophet replies, your mother. And then on the fourth time of asking, the Prophet replies, your father. And I relayed that to him, and I told him that, you know, may this small hadith really resonate with you, and inshallah, and soften your heart towards Islam. And you could see his visible emotion. The guy's just a kid. He's going through a difficult time, and he needs good support structure around him, which he's not getting at all. People are willing to, and I said this to him, they're willing to throw him under the bus by putting him in front of the Muslim community and completely destroying his reputation with the way he's talking. But at the end of the day, when he's going to start to face consequences for this, for the way he speaks, because of breaking the law in terms of what he's saying, or if he struggling to find a job, or this, that, the other, these same people are pushing him, you know, to be their spokesperson. They're going to run a mile. They're just too afraid to say what he says, and they're just too cowardly, so they put a young teenage kid with autism as their spokesperson, and they hide behind their sofas while he talks their dark opinions that they believe in. But then when this poor young kid gets in trouble, they're just going to be nowhere to be seen. They're just going to denounce him, whatever. And the only people that are going to be around for him are his parents. So I try to emphasize that to him, that his parents are the ones that raised him. His parents are the ones that are going to be there for him and when he's in his most difficult situations. And our religion really emphasizes the importance of parents, and hopefully, inshallah, that humanizes our religion to him. We'll see, because he did look visibly emotional after that. It did seem to hit him in some way, but we'll see. Now, coming back to the actual, I've been getting a lot of criticism about the discussion in the first place, that I shouldn't have engaged, this, that, the other. I'm sure the people that were in Speaker's Corner can attest to what happened. I was talking with a far-right individual. He was, despite his perspective, he was very polite, and we were having a nice conversation about what it means to be English. So young Bob approaches and starts interrupting the conversation. We repeatedly ask him, please do not interrupt, we're having a conversation. continuously starts going, continuously goes, being extremely rude, to the point where we have to end our conversation, me and the far right individual. We say goodbye to each other, apologize to each other, and then walk off. Young Bob follows me for 5 minutes around the park, and there's no authorities, nothing, so I can't go anywhere, and I don't want, he's just a kid. I just continuously walk around, and he's constantly following me. So what am I meant to do? Am I meant to walk out the park when he's all mic'd up and he's got all his Christian cameramen following me as well, to try and show that he can bully Muslim speakers out of the park? Should I give him that victory, that moral victory, or should I just what am I meant to do? Please tell me, apart from not go Speaker's Corner, which I'm seriously considering now. So because there's no way, like, what you see with what he does with the other brothers in Speaker's Corner, he does it 10 times worse to me, because I engaged with him before he became a big personality, and I didn't know who he was, and at that time I also refused to talk to him, but he was pestering me. And the first time we engaged, actually, I'd just come out of a hospital operation, and I'd only gone to Speaker's Corner to just kind of just listen in. So I was in a vulnerable situation. I engaged, and yeah, that whatever happened. So that's why ever since then he's been particularly harsh on me, especially because, as many of you can tell, I have a bit of a softer approach compared to the other speakers, and they try and really take advantage of that because they feel like they can cross the line further with harassing me. So yeah, in terms of people who have been saying, why are you talking to him? You're just in it to platform yourself, this, that, the other. That's my answer. And I just can't, I can't, because I know if there was any other speaker there, like, they just feel like it's right to attack me when I'm the one that tries to distance myself from him more than anyone else. There's been big prominent speakers there that have gone up to him and had a discussion with him, whereas I've never, ever gone up to him to have a discussion with him. So there we go. That's my response to those who were saying, but yeah, I just want to say, I really appreciate all you brothers and sisters that have been giving me support since this happened. May Allah bless you all. And yeah, I don't want to just focus on the negatives. Of course, it's been way more positives, and I really appreciate the support. And you know, it's good that we stand together in these difficult times. Our community is under a lot of bombardment from the far right in the UK, and maybe that's something that people abroad they're not really aware of, or they're not cognizant of as much. And that's maybe why they're critiquing me much more about this discussion, where I'm calling out the far right. But in the UK, for those that aren't aware, we're under heavy bombardment as a Muslim community from the far right. And it's in this circumstance that this conversation occurred. So there was a massive, over 100,000 people protest in central London just this last weekend, the day before I had this discussion with young Bob. And over 100,000 people, and they were all, it was called Unite the Kingdom. They were protesting against illegal immigration, they were protesting against immigration a lot of the time, and they were protesting against Islam, based on the speakers there. And young Bob was actually meant to be a speaker at that rally, at Tommy Robinson's rally, that Unite the Kingdom rally. He just wasn't able to speak because of Elon Musk going over his time. So if that doesn't show you that the world's most richest man is involved in all of this, and the world's richest man has a certain strong obsession with the dynamics of the UK, particularly the dynamics of the Muslim community in the UK, that's the context we're living in. And please be cognizant of that. Now, I just want to wrap up. I know I've rambled a bit and gone through various topics, but I'll try and add some timers to each of these to kind of demonstrate there is some kind of logical flow there in my head somewhere. But yeah, in terms of, I just wanted to end on Elon Musk actually, because a lot of the stuff that's happening now, these protests, these rallies, they've actually been going on since the 1980s. They've been going on for ages, for decades. The far right have constantly protested about things like this since the 1980s. Actually, when my mother, she came from Africa as a refugee, and she came to the UK as a refugee because of her close association with the British Empire, her family's close association with the British Empire. When she came back then, there was protests against immigration, against people from her background coming from Africa. So this is something that's been going on a long time in the UK. There was also things called, so I referred to the P word in my discussion, and there was things called P bashing, which is where there was groups of young men with their hair shaven off, called skinheads, who would go around the streets, roam the streets, looking for people of my complexion, whether male or female, and bash, so like literally beat whoever they found to a pulp, whether it be Christian, and whether it be a Christian Asian person, a Muslim Asian person, a Hindu Asian person, or a Sikh Asian person. It doesn't matter. They would just attack them, and that was called P bashing. Even though it's P bashing, often a lot of probably the majority of the times, the victims were Indian Asian. So this was such a prominent issue in these last few decades, and these rallies and protests was often places where this occurred, and this has been a constant thing. But the thing is, the far right now have something has changed for them, which is the fact that they're getting foreign support now. So like the right wing, members of the right wing in the United States of America, like Elon Musk, they started to fall for the far right's excuses about, oh, we need to protest about free speech, this, that, the other, and that's a cover for what they've always been protesting about, which is racism, justifying their racism. So yeah, members of the right wing in the United States of America have fallen for this rebranding, and now they're propping up people like my interlocutor and this, that, the other. And yeah, unfortunately, their movement is strengthening again, as it was strengthened. It was slowly dying over the decades, but now it's trying to strengthen again, unfortunately, sadly. And of course, it's very serious when the world's richest man is now backing these movements. And it's sad to see, you know, because before you got involved into politics, I actually had a lot of admiration for Elon Musk in some ways. I actually come from a very similar educational background to him, and had very similar interests to him. So it's quite sad to see, you know, him just losing it out of my community. But yeah, the fact that has happened, and he is against the UK Muslim community. Of course, I'm just talking to the Muslims now, like, of course you feel very vulnerable. A lot of you I've seen are in a period of hurt and upset and anger and feeling overwhelmed. But yeah, and to be honest, I feel the same way as well. But actually, a few days ago, I was just looking up at the sky, just wondering, as I always do, and I actually saw some Starlink satellites. So that's telecommunication satellites that are part of a subsidiary of SpaceX, so Elon Musk's company. So these are Elon Musk satellites in the sky in formation, and they actually look quite beautiful when they were passing through the night sky. And I'll try and include a clip of it in this video or a separate video. But yeah, that really struck me. I was looking up at the night sky and I was like in awe and wonder, and yeah, I was just thinking about how impressive humanity has become, that they're able to launch these satellites into the night. Yeah, it reminded me of Surah Rahman, Ayah 33, O assembly of jinn and humans, if you penetrate beyond the reaches of heaven and earth, then do so, but no, you can't without our authority. And that really struck me, you know, like how far humanity's gone. And also struck me, for some reason, I thought about the pyramids. It just hit me in my head. I thought about the pyramids, and I thought how, like, me looking at these Starlink satellites and pondering at like human achievement, and then I was thinking it must be very similar to like an ancient Egyptian looking at the pyramids and pondering at the human achievement back then. And then it struck me even more that, you know, like I was thinking, yeah, I was just thinking, subhanAllah, but I was thinking, we all know one of the greatest oppressors and evil people talked about in the Quran is Pharaoh, the Pharaoh, at the time of Musa alayhi salam. And yeah, just thinking about, like, you know, people have always suffered from oppressors and situations like this. And for like one of the Jewish slaves who was forced to build the pyramids, looking up at the pyramids and pondering about human achievement, and then pondering about the power of the commissioner and the commissioner of the pyramids, Pharaoh, and just feeling hopeless and feeling like, how can he ever overcome this struggle and overcome this oppression? Yeah, it kind of got me thinking how history, subhanAllah, how history repeats itself. And now I'm in a very similar situation. I'm looking at the Starlink satellites in awe of like the human achievement, in awe of that, how far we've come as humanity, but also in deep fear of the commissioner of those satellites and Elon Musk and how much power he has. And yeah, it just, subhanAllah, it just made me think about how history repeats itself. But when people are going through struggles, then when Bani Israel were going through struggles, then they had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala supporting them. The same with the Muslim community in the UK. So yes, never lose faith. Yeah, just keep faith, and we've got Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our side, and we're not on the side of oppression. We're on the side of bringing peace to the world. And yeah, as I mentioned, I had deep admiration for Elon Musk, and I really, I don't want him to have the hardened heart that Pharaoh had. But yeah, and I make dua that he becomes a Muslim, but what can you do? Like, it's it's down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the day. And either way he goes, we as a Muslim community are ready, and we as a Muslim community will overcome any struggle that comes our way. So that's what I wanted to end on. Thanks all for watching. And yeah, we're going to win against fascism. We're going to win against any form of oppression, and we're here to make a better world, whether the oppressors like it or not. Yeah, so there we go. Assalamu alaikum.